Did you know that the human body consists of 206 bones? I didn't, till I have encountered a very interesting TV show, which led me to a very interesting book series. Hello and welcome back to Planet Kritzel, my channel where I talk about all the stuff that interests me. Today is the first video of another series that I have thought of called Kritzel Compares. This series is about comparing things that clearly have a connection to each other, and I want to start the first episode with something that is really important in my life.
And as you all may have guessed, it has got to do with murder. What a surprise. No, I'm not a murderer, I'm just saying.
We are going back a few years, watching telly. I really love watching telly, by the way. That's the reason a lot of TV shows inspire my work.
This man has the word couch potato written all over him.
I have always been a fan of the TV show Bones. Bones stars Emily Deschanel and David Boreanaz in a show about a forensic anthropologist named Dr. Temperance Brennan. Dr. Brennan works at the Jeffersonian and, together with other members of the staff, Dr. Brennan solves numerous crime cases with her partner, Special Agent Celie Booth from the FBI. I've been watching this show for a time that feels like forever because it has been around for so long. Think of this, Bones premiered in America in 2005, which is 15 years ago. Oh boy, that's long ago. For me it is.
That is one of the reasons that sometimes I feel like an old potato.
I mean, I didn't watch it right from the start. I got drawn into it by watching telly. Because I always loved crime shows, and Bones was just one of those modern American crime shows I watched, together with shows like CSI, for example. Don't ask me what kind, I've watched all of them. Anyways, after years and years of watching Bones, and I have watched Bones because I really liked it. I liked the characters. I also liked the chemistry between the two main protagonists, Dr. Brennan and Celie Booth. And eventually, of course, they got together and had a child, and they married, and they had another child, and then the show was done, unfortunately.
Seriously, I think I have never ever heard such a bad summary of a TV show. Even Olaf's Frozen recap has more depth.
By the way, I have never seen this wedding episode till this day. I mean, now I can, because I own the complete box set. I am a complete box set person.
Who likes to flex about it a hell of a lot.
Anyways, during the run of the show, I found several things I liked about it. I liked the chemistry between the characters, and the cases were sometimes very peculiar. I mean, even the titles for the episodes were very interesting. Just imagine, there is an episode called The Cinderella in the Cardboard. This is such a funny title. Or The Santa in the Slush. The person who was thinking of those episodes was actually very, very witty and funny at the same time. I really love when it starts with the titles being that interesting and being in your mind just from watching the episode. Like, the German title for The Cinderella in the Cardboard is Die Prinzessin in der Pappe, which is an interpretation of the original title, but is still funny. Like, I even thought of an episode title myself, a German one. It is called Die zerflossene Verflossene im Wachs, which is about a former partner whose dead body has been found in a wax sculpture. This is an idea for a Richard O'Neill kind of short story collection. I might get into that on my blog. It's in German, so for the German people in my audience, if you want to read my blog, the link is down in the description. Just saying. Okay, let's get past that. Of course, I liked the show Bones. I really loved it. And then after some years, I began some research, because what I always do when I really love something and I'm really interested in it, I do research. I read articles in the internet, mainly Wikipedia. Thanks, Wikipedia, on this point, for always maintaining your pages and giving me all the information I'm craving for.
Would that be a bad moment to admit that I have never donated any money to Wikipedia ever before?
And when I was reading the page of Bones on Wikipedia, I always had this side note saying that this show is actually inspired by a book series. Not just by the book series itself, but... wait a second. And the interesting thing is, the first season says it so on the cover. Here it says in German, it is inspired by the life and work of forensic anthropologist Kathy Reichs, who is an actual living person. Who would have guessed?
Apparently all the people who are watching this video and have got brain capacity left to think.
Dr. Kathy Reichs is a forensic anthropologist herself, so that means the things that happen in the show are actually genuine. Yes, some animations were thought up by the studio team to make it look cool and awesome, but in general, the general idea behind it comes from real science. This is what most people don't believe. I post on my blog sometimes about Bones and the books that inspired the show, and I can remember a comment where someone said that Bones is the worst TV show he has ever seen with all those lab animations.
Is it just me, or did that hand-waving thing look totally gay?
And I was just like, what's so wrong about this lab animations? I don't get it. I mean, they are made to look cool, yes, but they are based on scientific ideas. This is something that most people apparently are not aware of, which is a shame. And after all these years watching the show, I thought, okay, when there are books, why shouldn't I read them? Then I did more research and found out the book series is completely different. And then I hesitated. I was like, a book series with the same main character, but with a whole different kind of surroundings and topics and stuff. Am I going to like it? I wasn't sure. It was during Christmas. We spent Christmas at my uncle's place, and he and his wife, they were at church, and we arrived a bit late for going to church with them, so we waited at their place. And I have to say, the wife my uncle was married to then, he's not anymore, unfortunately, she comes from a family of great readers. Like, all the people in this family, when you come into their homes, they have gigantic bookshelves standing around. I was rummaging through the bookshelf, and then I saw this. This is a German audiobook, an abridged version of a novel by Kathy Reichs called Bones to Ashes, read by German actress Katja Riemann. I'm not particularly a fan of her work, but I like her voice. She has got a very interesting voice to listen to. And when my uncle and his wife came back from church, I asked her if she would mind if I borrowed to listen to it. And she said, of course, you're welcome to listen to it. And she added, I'm not a fan of it myself because I don't like Katja Riemann's voice. And I think 1 or 2 evenings later, I actually started listening to this audiobook. And I found her voice very interesting. I really liked listening to it. It wasn't too loud, it wasn't too scratchy or too high, it wasn't pitchy, it was very soothing. And she drew me into the story.
Which is something a good audiobook voice should be capable of.
Here is a short summary of the story. The story itself focuses on Tempe's childhood. Tempe is her nickname in the books of Dr. Temperance Brennan, and she had a friend who then vanished, and years later she comes across a case that reminds her of this old friend, and she eventually begins searching again for her old friend. This is a very interesting case. It is very emotional and close to the character, and after I had finished listening to the audiobook, I was convinced that I'm going to love this book series. And as you can see around me, I own quite some entries of this book series.
Here's a little secret for you. I only read a part of all the Kathy Reichs books I own. The rest is still up on my list.
The first book, that is Tote Lügen nicht, or Déjà Dead in the original title, was published in 1997, which is 7 years before Bones aired.
I'm lying to you. It is 8 years. Oh boy, I have always been bad at mathematics.
This is very interesting because I never would have thought that this book series could have started that long ago. I mean, when you calculate now from 2020 back to 1997, and in this month, in April, Kathy Reichs has published her 19th, or if you count this short story collection, her 20th Temperance Brennan book, which is very interesting. Unfortunately, after listening to Bones to Ashes, I started reading the books in random order, which is actually not a problem because every book is a independent case. The only thing is the development of the character and the relationships of the character to other characters, which is developed throughout the series. Only for this, you should read the books in the right order. For example, I find it very interesting how she deals with alcoholism, because Temperance Brennan in the book is a dry alcoholic, which is very interesting because this kind of topic was never brought into the show in the first place.
I knew this was an inevitable thing to say, but here is a little, thing, quest, whatever, for you. Why don't you just go and count how many times I used the word interesting during my video and post it down in the comments? Because I say it a lot.
Here comes the comparing part now. So, when we go to the show, we have got Dr. Brennan and Special Agent Seeley Booth. Then, when we go to the Jeffersonian, we have got Dr. Jack Hodgins. We have Angela Montenegro. In later seasons, we've got Dr. Sweets and Dr. Camille Soroyan, all people who are involved in the things that happen in the Jeffersonian.
I have to say that Sweets actually is employed by the FBI because he's a psychologist, but he knows a lot about the things in the Jeffersonian. He also has a relationship, or had a relationship, to Daisy Wig.
We also have Caroline Julian, who is one of my favorite characters because she's always so sassy, especially in court. I really like how she treats the people. She's awesome. And those are the general characters of the show. Temperance Brennan is a quite young person. In the first season, she's quite awkward. She's socially awkward. I mean, in the first 3 or 4 seasons, she often goes when she comes across something she's not familiar with. I don't know what that means. Because she's so involved in her work in forensic anthropology. Like, when they are talking about a trivia topic, she bursts out like she's a forensic article about things that happened in civilizations from thousands of years ago. Just like that. She was so socially awkward.
Ah, yes, social awkwardness, my old friend.
And over the course of the show and the work with Booth, she actually became a much more human character. I think when they first put together the concept for the show, they wanted her to be this awkward so that people also had their laughs about her. Like, I can remember I was watching the show and there was a scene, it was in German, so I'm going to recite it in German. They were actually chasing a suspect, and when she got him, she stood in front of him and said in German, "Bleiben Sie stehen oder ich trete Ihnen in den Hoden," which translated means, "Stop there or I'm going to kick your balls." But in the weirdest polite way you can say it. This is so random, I just had to laugh. And this is the humor of the show that continues on as the show progresses. I mean, about certain topics, she still acts awkward, like Booth and religion. She's not like... She doesn't understand why he's so religious. She doesn't get it. For her, religion is nothing necessary. And this is a topic in the show now and then and again. Always depends on the context. So, now we are going back to the book series. You will notice this is the only English edition of a Kathy Reichs book that I own.
And incidentally, it's a British print too. Once I actually tried to order an American version from Amazon, which never arrived. But I got a refund, so everything's okay.
And yes, it is Bones to Ashes, because to this day, Bones to Ashes is my favorite novel. I think I listened to the audiobook more than 5 times, and I have read the novel in both German and English at least 7 times. Which makes it my favorite Kathy Reichs novel, because I have never read another Kathy Reichs novel that often. So now we are going to the general idea of the book series. In the book series, Dr. Temperance Brennan is actually a bit older than the TV show character. She was married. She's divorced from her husband Pete. She has a daughter named Katie. She has a little sister named Harry, or Harriet actually, but Harry's like her nickname. And she's working in both America and in Canada, which is something that is not done in the show, but references to the book series, like the places of Montreal or Quebec, are referenced. I can remember there is an episode in which Hodgins planned to go to Quebec for any kind of reason. And I think this is like a reference to the original book series. Also in the book series, Dr. Brennan works together with multiple different policemen, but there is one policeman she's working with who is kind of a love interest. I would say it's an on-off relationship. It's a Canadian policeman called Andrew Ryan. At first, when she meets Ryan, he is very charming and gallant, and she regularly tries to actually not be too impressed about him. Like, I'm against working and sleeping together. Like, she wants to separate work from her private life, which is totally fine. This is a very good way to go by. I am doing this myself. I would never date a colleague. Over the course of the book series, she sort of gives in. She has a relationship to Andrew Ryan, but this relationship is always a bit problematic because from a certain point, suddenly his ex-wife Letitia wants him back because suddenly there is a daughter he has to take care of. Although it's not really that she wants him back, she wants him to take care of the daughter because the daughter has actually left the righteous path, and he as a policeman is supposed to help her to get back on the right path, and that really puts a hitch in the relationship to Tempe. And what I like about the book series is you have really insight of how Tempe thinks and feels. She's much more emotional, she is less socially awkward, and the characters around her are also less, well, comedic, because a lot of Bones characters, like Hodgins, for example, or Dr. Brennan's assistant, Zach Eddy, for the first 3 seasons, they have a kind of comedy quality to them. Their kind of awkwardness, because they are so drawn to the field of expertise, makes them so funny and interesting at the same time. And this is not what's happening in the books. Also, what I really like about this book series is you get explained some of the things a forensic anthropologist does. It not just helps understand what happens when a body decomposes. In this context, it really helps to actually find the killer or what happened to this person, if it has been homicide or if it was suicide or just sudden death. It can happen. For example, she mentions sometimes side cases in her books. In this book, there was a 98-year-old man who apparently burned down his house while he was smoking in bed. And she had to identify the human remains as this old man who smoked in bed. And she came to the conclusion, apparently he fell asleep and the cigarette lit him. Something like that. And getting explained how she actually goes through her work, like how you can determine the age, the race, the gender of a person just from the structure of the skull and the rest of the bones is very interesting.
Oh my god, could please someone get me a thesaurus for this word?
I mean, I would never ever go and learn or study forensic anthropology because it's a very, very wide field. It is very complicated. You need a good understanding of, I think, biology and physics, and I have never been good at these things during school, but I really like reading about it now because it sparks my interest. So, what is better in conclusion, the show or the book series? When you compare both side by side, it is more like, the most people would say, when you love the books, you're not going to like the show because it's so different. And other people might say, if you really love the show, don't read the books because they're so different. The good thing is, I'm someone who is interested in various things. There is a word for that. I'm looking for it right now in my head. Maybe I'll find it. Maybe I don't. And if I don't, the audio commentary will deal with that for me. Am I right?
How dare you speak to me like that? That's inappropriate. And by the way, the word you were looking for was eclectic.
Yeah, right. Anyways, since I am interested in many different things and views, I have to say the book series and the TV series are not easy to be compared because of all those differences. The only thing they actually have in common are the main character, Dr. Temperance Brennan.
And maybe the topic of forensic anthropology, I might add.
So, what can I say? I've compared the show to the books now. I have shown you the differences and what actually connects them, the main character. And my conclusion is, both are great, but you have to see them separately. You can't actually compare them to one another. They're not, the series is not a clear adaptation of the books, and the books are not a clear path to go for the series. They both have very interesting attributes. While the books show you a bit more about forensic anthropology and how it actually works, the show shows you something, well, what a lot of shows actually show you, how characters interact with each other, how they develop, and this is what happens in the show in a very interesting context. While watching one of the extras, one of the producers, I don't even know who said it. Who said it? I can't remember. Anyway, one of the producers said this very inspiring sentences that the show, the plot of the show, is actually driven by the characters, not vice versa. And this is very interesting because ever since then, I asked myself, the stories of my books, is the plot driven by the characters, or are the characters driven by the plot? This is a very essential question. And when you see this show, which is driven by its characters, not the characters driven by the plot of a show, then you see it works. And this is what I really like learning from the show. So I learned something from the show and I learned something from the book. I just learned different things. Another funny thing that is done in the TV series, that Dr. Brennan is writing books herself. Although she's not really too posh about it. She's like, I write books, I earn money, so what's the big deal? I can remember an episode where her publisher actually gifts her a car. And Booth's like, they just can't give that car to you, look at that car. And she's like, why not? It's just a gift. like possessions that are expensive are not that interesting. Not that much to mention about. She's actually right. But the most people would be, oh my god, I would like to own that car. What do I have to do to get this car gifted to me? And the protagonist in her book is called Kathy Reichs. So, you see, the TV show makes a lot of references to the author and the book series, but the book series will always be first. So, if you really like reading and are not that much into watching TV shows, then I highly recommend the Temperance Brennan novels, because they are very interesting, they are very great. Some of them are slower than others. There are peaks and lows. For people who really like watching shows, or in fact binge watching shows, I can highly recommend Bones, because Bones is not just funny, but it is also interesting and it is thrilling. People who are not very into reading, and that are most people, because all the people I know, they don't like reading. I don't know why. Not all the people, most people. They don't like reading. I don't know why. Reading is great, people. Read, people. reading is so good. And above all, your speech and grammar gets better. That's why I read books even in English, so that my English doesn't sound like crap. Sometimes it does, I know, but I'm still learning, okay? Get on my back. Anyways, the TV show is great for other things than the book series. I can recommend them both. They are hard to compare, but still I wanted to do this video to show you how great both are, the show and the book series. And for all the fans out there, please tell me, what was your first contact with the show or the book series? Which is your favorite book? Which is your favorite season or episode? Your favorite character from either of them? Tell me in the comments, I really would like to know. And this was the first episode of Kritzel Compares. Other episodes are in the making right now, so stay tuned for more.
Alright, that's it with the video for today. If you liked the video, then please give it a like. And if you like the general idea of my channel, then please subscribe. For all the German people in my audience, why don't you just check out my blog? The link is in the video description. If you want to follow my Instagram, either German or English, the links are also in the description. So long, my friends, and I hope you will return for the next video. Goodbye.